Hello everyone, my name is Zildjian65 and I am the producer and co-host of the T&T Wrestling Podcast. And before we got into today's episode, I wanted to thank you for listening to the show. It really means a lot to me and Tracee and all the guest hosts we have on the show. It's because of you that we are able to talk all things wrestling and have fun with this and try hopefully make a living with doing this sort of thing. It really is all up to you guys, and thank you so much for your support. Thank you for making us a 4 out of 5 star podcast on Podbean. That is incredible. Thank you so much for that. So, to give you a rundown of today's episode, we recorded on June 29th, 2018. And we discussed Chris Benoit and all the things surrounding his death and a lot of things about the conspiracy theories, a lot of things that didn't make sense and so on and so forth, or things that didn't add up to Tracee and so on and so forth. It was a very interesting discussion, and I hope you all enjoy it. You can follow me on Twitter at Zildjian65YT. You can follow me on Instagram at Zildjian_65. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at T&T Podcast 2018 on Twitter. And Tracee's links will be in the description and all that. So will Dave's. Everything will be in there. So, here we are with our main host of the show.
Hi.
And, we have a special co-host
today. This is Dusty
today.
Dave from the KOTR Podcast. We can't get all three of them in one room. We got to do them one by one. And today we have Dusty Dave here.
What's up? Yeah, it's me, Dusty Dave, otherwise known as the man of 1,000 gimmicks. You can find me on Twitter, KOTR_Dusty Dave. And you can find our podcast at KOTR_podcast. Once again, Smiley, thank you for appearing on our show a couple weeks ago. Very much enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to our conversations today.
Yes, and today we talk about the one, the only name that has been blacklisted from WWE, and the anniversary just passed this week. Yes, guys, it's that time.
He who shall not be named.
Let's talk Chris Benoit.
Voldemort himself.
Now, if you guys did not know, the anniversary of the... I'm going to say this, and it's going to piss off a lot of people. I've had a lot of quote-unquote wrestling fans come up my Twitter for saying this and calling me all types of dumbasses. But I'm going to say it anyway. The day that Chris Benoit allegedly murdered his son, murdered his wife, and then killed himself. Now, there is a lot swarming about this case. A lot. There's conspiracy theories. There's even some that says Chris didn't even freaking do it. So, we shall get into it. So, from what we know, we already know is that Chris had a conversation with his best friend, Chavo Guerrero Jr., and I think the day that he killed his wife, he called Chavo, saying that he was going to be at the house show. If you go on the WWE website, there was no WWE magazine that came out right around the time that Chris Benoit did what he, allegedly did.
That's exactly what I'm saying, that this story doesn't add up. Is it maybe something people took out of context from another interview? Possibly.
Yeah, possibly. That they just took that and ran with it and say, oh, Chavo said this, that, and the other. And Chavo himself even said, I don't think I ever said that. Let's talk about the number one conspiracy theory that everyone knows of, and that is that Kevin Sullivan is actually the one that killed Chris Benoit's wife, Nancy, his son, and then killed
Yeah.
Chris and made it look like a suicide.
I like that's the predominant rumor that I've heard, and I mean, it does have some credibility. Nancy Benoit used to be married to him, and apparently Chris and Nancy started seeing each other while they were still together.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be a storyline, but it turned into a real life romance, and that's when she decided to dump Kevin and get with Chris. You know, as his wrestling gimmick was, he was a Satanist.
I heard he actually was.
I heard that too. I heard he's a Satanist in real life.
I mean, that doesn't bother me.
Oh yeah, I mean, Aleister Black is a Satanist.
No, he's not a Satanist. He's a he just doesn't believe in God. He's not.
He's
like me, where he has a deep interest in Satanism and the Indie occult, but he doesn't practice it.
I stand corrected.
He just knows a lot about it.
Yeah, I don't think he's a Satanist. That's not what I heard. I just heard he was an atheist. That's all I heard.
He's just really interested in the occult. That's all it is.
Yeah,
and it really is very interesting.
Yeah, he's really actually a very nice guy. He loves his cats. You know, regular person. Like
Satanists love cats.
The Satanists to look up. But yes, the number one rumor is that Kevin Sullivan was upset at Nancy for leaving him for Chris, and so after everyone knew that Chris Benoit was losing it due to the drugs and steroids he was on, he decided, I'm going to get my revenge, go in the house, kill Nancy, kill his son, and then kill Chris and make it look like a very, very good suicide.
Now, if I remember correctly, his son had a mental condition, right?
Well, that's not what the family's saying.
I mean, I choose to trust his aunt on Daniel's aunt on that because she has his medical record, so I choose to trust her.
Yeah, I definitely trust her. I don't think he had a medical condition at all.
Did he maybe have ADD like a normal kid? Sure, but that's probably the extent of it.
Okay, because I mean, I have read some places that he had a mental condition, and obviously we'll get into one of the other possibilities that Chris did do it. Like he was abusing steroids, and the analysis of his brain afterwards support the case that he could have done it, because obviously we're talking about it as alleged right now. And I want to say that I read somewhere that the way they found his son's body, I don't know. And I mean, I have read that even throughout his career, he was very to himself. Like he was very focused on his job as a wrestler, but he kept a very small circle of friends.
Right. It was only Eddie and Chavo was his.
Yeah, it was Eddie, Chavo, Chris Guerrero, Chris Jericho.
Right.
And it's hazy whenever you talk about Chris Benoit, because obviously being that we're lay people and weren't there for the investigation, we only go on what they say. But the fact that I believe he was 40 years old?
Yeah, he was about 40.
Yeah, so he was about 40. So the fact that at 40 years old, having a brain that shows similarities to an 82-year-old with dementia. Again, he missed the house show, and he also missed the Vengeance pay-per-view.
Yeah, he did. He was actually supposed to win the title against CM Punk. So let's talk about... Sorry, what did you say?
Oh no, I was on what I was saying.
So let's talk about the rumor that actually got debunked, and that is the Wikipedia entry that foreshadowed Nancy's death. The day before Nancy's body was even found, someone put on Wikipedia, and I quote, Chris Benoit was replaced by Johnny Nitro for the ECW Championship match at Vengeance, as Benoit was not there due to personal issues stemming from the death of his wife, Nancy. And the suspicious was that the IP address of the user who made that edit was based in Stamford, Connecticut, the same town as WWE's corporate headquarters. Now that one was weird.
No, that one was just a troll.
Yeah, a very.
Well, I shouldn't even say a troll. It was a fan who had heard something about Chris acting odd. Maybe that's it.
I just can't believe they caught up with thought of that easily.
I can. It's called the internet.
I mean, obviously, like we've all gone through school. We know how valid anything on Wikipedia is. Like for this,
honestly, it's actually pretty accurate.
For the most part, it is accurate, but a lot. Like I mean, I've actually watched one of my friends change like articles for random things over and over. Mm-hmm. Like now they've kind of added in safeguards to prevent stuff like that. But I feel like a lot of conspiracies with anything, not just, this very issue, every conspiracy has like a controversy involving Wikipedia. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, not 9/11, like, you name it, there's some sort of controversy on Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sounds fair.
So, there's also the conspiracy that he had, and I quote, roid rage, stemming from his steroid use and all of that. Now, I have been, looking into this for the longest, and I don't believe it, not one bit. I don't think roid rage even, exists, really.
It's weird, because it's kind of confirmed to exist, but kind of not.
Yeah. It's like, they said roid rage, makes you angry, but it doesn't make you, aggressive to, want to kill someone.
I don't think it puts those ideas in your head, but when you think about it, even before this happened, they did have a lot of domestic problems. Mm-hmm. So I think there was already the tendency for domestic abuse, and if this is a case of roid rage, it was amplified because of how deep he was in the addiction, and obviously the more you use these drugs, they change the function of your brain. And we mentioned earlier, his brain was said to resemble that of a 82-year-old dementia patient. Mm. As the brain deteriorates, it'll affect its effects will be magnified even more. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's also a conspiracy that Chris Benoit did his finisher, the crippler crossface, on his little son, Daniel. Because when they found Daniel, they said that he had stuff on his face, and I guess they immediately came up with, he did his finisher on little Daniel, and that's how he killed him.
How could a finisher kill someone, though? That's my question.
I guess, when he did the crippler crossface, he put his hand over little Daniel's whole, his nose and his mouth, and just waited for him to stop breathing. And that's already been debunked. That's been debunked. I was like, really? Really? No.
I mean, I haven't heard about him using the submission move on his son, but rather being suffocated with a pillow. Because I'm looking up on different news articles about it, that there were no markings on his throat, and I'm not seeing any on the face that would signify strangulation, but I am reading that the son did have Xanax in his system, so he most likely was
incapacitated.
Yeah, incapacitated.
Didn't even feel it. At least Daniel didn't even feel it at all. Like, it's coming, I know that sounds like, worse, but at least little Daniel didn't even feel it. Like, he was too out of it to even resist or, like, try to stop his dad or whoever did it to try to save himself, and that really sucks. So there's also the theory that, let's see, which was the other one? Oh, he had brain damage. Pretty much, they're like, oh, because of his brain damage, that's why he did what he did. And I'm just like, well, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I do believe there was some brain damage.
A lot of brain damage.
With a combination of the drug use, and because I think he may have also had an on and off prescription pill addiction.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, he did have a couple serious neck injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't everyone have an addiction back then?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, and
well, except for Jericho. Jericho's one I never heard stories of him doing steroids.
So if you factor in a strong possibility of opiate addiction, steroids, and just like damage from being a wrestler, the brain damage would make a lot of sense.
It would make a lot of sense, but I don't think we would have. And that with his crippling, anxiety and his depression, like I still don't think it would be enough to like. I think he would want to like kill himself, but I don't think he wanted to take his family with him. Like, I don't think so. So there's also a conspiracy theory that WWE talent Dave Taylor was outside the Benoit residence shortly before the police arrived. Now it says that Chris Benoit's neighbor Holly was the first port of call after WWE had contacted the authorities about Benoit's absence and the strange text. She was instructed by police to enter the property before they got there, secure the dogs that are running around the yard, and to check on Benoit. And to her shock, she discovered the bodies and she fled the house. And upon that, she claims to have seen Dave Taylor and his wife Lisa clearing a plate of deli food towards the house. Now, I don't know how the fuck he would get there so fast, knowing that they were about to put on these pay-per-view and these house shows. I don't know how the hell Dave could have got there so fast, bringing food or whatnot. That's just weird. I don't know if it's ever been debunked or what, but that's just weird. That's just really fucking weird.
I wouldn't even know where to start to debunk that.
That's
what I'm saying?
Weird, yeah. And he never denied it. He said that they never revisited this, and he never denied it. So that's just weird. He said, he wasn't involved anyway in the deaths. He just heard that, the family had been sick and his friend no showing the shows. He was just checking up on them and making sure there was food in the house. So, but in Dave Taylor's book called Chris and Nancy, wrestling critic Irvin Munchnick was a bit more cynical, suggesting that Taylor may have been sent by WWE to look around and get the facts early to prevent a PR problem. I believe that. That's one I believe. But that sounds like some shit Vincent Kennedy McMahon would do. To avoid a PR problem, go send someone who works for him to go lurk around the place, make sure ain't shit going on.
Yeah, because I do know that outside of injury, Chris Benoit was not he was never known to miss live events.
Yeah, he was never at all.
And then when you factor in that he missed a live event and a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
That's when red flags start going. And I remember I was at my aunt and uncle's apartment in Astoria when the news reports first reported that professional wrestler found dead along with his wife and child. But this is before it came to light of the murder, the double murder suicide.
Yeah.
And then it was announced that it was Chris Benoit. Like, me and my brother couldn't process it. We literally were getting the pay-per-view the next day. So, like, and then I remember watching the, the show, the tribute, and then the following SmackDown when blackballed.
Mm-hmm. Well, during the tribute show, who's the general manager at NXT? Oh God, what is his name?
William Regal.
William Regal was the only one who seemed nonchalant, like he didn't even care. I think that's when the news that came out that he murdered his family and then killed himself, because he was the only one who said, like, oh, he was a good wrestler, and that was it. Like, he didn't really have shit to say like everyone else did. He was just like,
well, did you know William Regal well, though?
I think so.
I not to the extent that he was with the Radicals, Jericho or Chavo, but they did spend time together in WCW and obviously WWF, so they had this same kind of path to the top of the mountain, so to say. But I do know William Regal was battling his own drug addictions, so I think it could be a mix of them finally getting the information and William Regal kind of starting to do introspection on himself that it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he said everything he needed to. He said, yeah, he was a good wrestler. What about him?
I think that's when the news actually came out. That's when he didn't really have much to say, and I would have felt the same way. I wouldn't have wanted to go on camera and be like, don't make me say nothing about him. Like, he's a murderer. So
it wasn't known at that time, right?
During the tribute show, I think the news had came out before the tribute show ended. That's when news that came out.
WWE didn't know that.
No.
So you can't blame him for doing that show.
True. So there's also the conspiracy theory of the Sherry Martel connection. So after the whole...
Oh, God. Geraldo Rivera.
Yes, Fox News and
God.
Geraldo Rivera and Bill O'Reilly make a reference to a possible connection between Chris Benoit death and the passing of the Hall of Fame wrestling manager, Sherry Martel.
I mean, it's not insane because they did see the same doctor.
True.
It's not completely insane.
And she did
it's
die.
Just connecting
really,
it so fast.
She died days before the bodies of Chris Benoit and his family was found.
Yeah, so it's not completely false.
Mm-hmm. And she was friends with Chris Benoit and the family. She managed Kevin Sullivan for a time. And they said there's nothing to suggest that it was anything other than her own doing, whether it was deliberate or accidental suicide. And she died by overdose of prescription
I was
drugs.
about to say, did she die from a drug overdose, right?
Yes. Prescription pain pills. And they didn't really investigate into it. They're just like, oh, it was an accidental overdose. So we don't know, was it deliberate?
Yeah, because I think because they probably found the prescriptions to her name, pills all over the place. Mm-hmm. Probably alcohol and probably the physical signs of overdose,
But there was one connection between Sherry and Chris Benoit. They both been seeing the same doctor, Dr. Phil Aston. He had been prescribing Chris Benoit with testosterone and other prescription pills. And in 2009, Dr. Austin, whatever, he was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison for overprescribing medication. And it was noted that 3 of his patients died with drugs in their systems. There were Chris Benoit, ECW wrestler Johnny Grunge, and Jerry. Which just is a big old coinky dink. Big coinky dink. Big old coinky dink. That's just one hell of a coinky dink. But I still want to go back to this Kevin Sullivan thing. I want to go back to Kevin Sullivan right quick. I did not know he was a freaking KKK leader. When the hell did that happen?
No, he wasn't a KKK leader. It was the dude who accused him.
Oh.
Wasn't it like Johnny Angel or something?
Yeah, something like that. I think so.
Yeah. Kevin Sullivan isn't.
But there was, Kevin did threaten Chris Benoit and said, "I will kill you."
Yeah, but if he really wanted revenge, why didn't he do it 10 years earlier?
True. Why would he wait 10 years to all of a sudden think of, oh, I'm just going to go kill Chris. I'm going to go kill Nancy, kill her son, and then I'm going to kill Chris and make it look like a suicide, and it will just ruin his name. That was a good name. Well, he did have a good name back then. Sort of.
He still has a good name if you don't think about all that.
If you don't think about, the allegedly killings or whatnot, he was a really good wrestler. How many championships did that man have?
A lot.
He had a lot.
I could actually pull up his championship.
Because we all know he started spiraling right after Eddie Guerrero died. Like, if you watch the Eddie Guerrero special, you can see it in Chris's eyes. He was just heartbroken. He was crying. He was the only one that couldn't even get straight words out because he was crying so hard. And I think after that, he just started spiraling.
So in WCW, he was a world heavyweight champion once, tag champ twice, TV champ 3 times, United States champion 2 times, and he's known as the 6th WCW Triple Crown champion. In the WWF/E, he was world heavyweight champion once. He was WWE Tag Team Championship once. The United States champion 3 times, the Intercontinental champion 4 times, the WWE World Tag Team Championship 3 times. He won the 2004 Royal Rumble, and he won a tag team championship tournament with Kurt Angle, and he's a 12th Triple Crown champion in WWE.
That's a lot of goddamn fucking championships. All down the drain that WWE will never talk about. He was probably going to go in the fucking Hall of Fame.
100%. 100%.
100%
I mean,
Hall of Famer.
He was even designated by Wrestling Observer Newsletter, but don't forget, guys, this is Dave Meltzer we're talking about. Best technical wrestler in 94, 95, 2000, 2003, 2004.
Okay, Tracee, what's wrong with Meltzer?
I have
There's a huge market for spoilers.
I have a love-hate relationship with Dave Meltzer.
I'm just like, I don't subscribe to his newsletter.
Me neither.
I don't really give a lot of credence to his star system.
Nope.
I watch the matches, and then I'm like when I watched Omega Okada 4 at Dominion, as soon as the match finished, I'm like, Meltzer is gonna break his system again.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, for the awards, like, outside of the star matches, like best technical wrestler, feud of the years, and all that I'll give some credence to. And I mean, then when you're considered the best technical wrestler 5 years in 2 different decades, that's a big accomplishment. Especially, like, I mean, 2000, 2003, 2004, Kurt Angle was also there. And Kurt Angle's known as one of the best technicians of all time. He's an Olympic freaking medalist, and he won the gold medals with a broken freaking neck.
A broken freaking neck.
So, but yeah, he would have 100% been a a Hall of Famer. Oh, and he won the Junior Heavyweight Championship in New Japan when he was Pegasus Kid. Mm-hmm. And he won the Super J Cup in '94, which was, I believe, it was an infrequent tournament. But, like, so he had success everywhere he went. And, I mean, one of the favorite moments, like you had mentioned before I went into those accomplishments, about how torn up he was over Eddie Guerrero's death. I remember WrestleMania closing out with the two of them embracing having just won the championships.
That made me cry.
What championships are those again?
Benoit won the World Heavyweight Championship versus Triple H and Chris Jericho, and Eddie Guerrero beat who did Eddie Guerrero beat?
I haven't watched that WrestleMania in a while.
It's like I cannot remember.
I'm looking it up right now. He beat Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 20.
Oh.
WrestleMania 20 is a good WrestleMania.
Yeah, that was the last one at Madison Square Garden.
That was the last one in an arena.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because now they're...
No, it wasn't. Wasn't 22?
Here, let me...
I know the last one is either in Chicago or Canada.
Here, let's see. So... it was 22 in the Allstate Arena. Since then, It's been at Ford Field, the Citrus Bowl.
I was at the first one in the stadium.
At MetLife?
No, at Ford Field.
Oh, you were at Ford Field?
Dude, I live in Detroit.
Oh, where? I went to 29 at MetLife, 33 in Orlando, last year in New Orleans, and I'm going to be going again this upcoming year. But yeah, so it was the second to last, the third to last one in an arena, and I doubt they'll ever go back to arenas now.
Probably not. So there's also another conspiracy theory that's still going on to this day. Chris Benoit's cell phone has never been found.
Really?
Yes, they don't know where. When they went to the crime scene, his cell phone just magically disappeared, and it still has not been found to this day. We don't know. Did someone find it and just take it? Did policemen lose it in evidence? We don't know, and that's weird. That's what kind of made me believe, like, that's iffy. That's suspicious. Maybe he really didn't do this. Maybe there was some sort of evidence on that phone. And someone, I don't know how, did something and took the phone.
Impeded investigation. Like, I mean, I've gotten into watching a lot of crime shows, so, like, the implications of, like, if that's a case, and if they ever did come across it, like, those implications could be huge.
Yeah, they said they can't. It says his cell phone's never been found. And they couldn't find the needles they said Chris used to inject himself with steroids shortly before he died. So if you can't find those needles and you can't find his cell phone, something's up. Something is really up. That's why I'm just like, I'm kind of iffy. I'm kind of like 50-50. One part of me believes that he actually did this, but the other part of me is like, I don't think he did this. I really don't think he did this. He loved his family. Like, they were.
He definitely did. Like, I mean, unfortunately, this is one case where, looking back, hindsight isn't 20/20 because we'll never have all the facts, and just because of the extent of how heinous these acts, should they be true, are, I doubt we'll ever see the case reopened.
No, because they just, automatically said, nope, he did it, case closed. And that's what, all the Twitter believes, he called him a murderer, but there's so much evidence that says, there's, a little bit that, that says it. I don't think he did this. Like, here's some evidence. Like Daniel, they said, Daniel's body was badly decomposed, so they think that everyone died that Friday. And the police kept changing the manner of Daniel's death 3 times. First, he said he died from a garbage bag. Then he died from Chris Benoit's chokehold. Third was that he was smothered by a pillow. And they keep changing it. Why would they keep changing it?